an instant classic that turned into heartbreak for the Canadian side, falling to the Americans at the Winter Olympics. It is gold for the red, white, and blue, and bitter disappointment for the Canadians. Let's break it down. So there's really not a whole lot to say other than just absolute devastation if you are the Canadians. Just a heartbreaking loss in a game that was probably the best they played this tournament. They were in control of this hockey game. They had a number of excellent opportunities. They had so many great chances. They had the puck a ton. And all of the reasons why you felt relatively confident about the game against the Czech Republic and about the game against Finland was why you felt confident that eventually this was going to go the Canadian way as well, where they were just in control. They had it. They had all of those great chances. They had all those great opportunities, and it never really clicked in a way that was able to get them more than the one goal. So it's heartbreaking on the Canadian side of things. There has been a lot of discussion about better team, this, that, or the other thing. Ultimately, one team won, and so that's how most people would determine a better team. But obviously, if you're looking out on the ice, like, it wasn't particularly close. Canada was obviously the better hockey team in this game. The control they were able to have, the speed that they were able to play with, even just in the offensive zone. That is the most zone time, really, it felt like they've had, while threatening still. Even like against Finland, they had zone time, but it wasn't as threatening until they finally figured out how to break through. This one, they found ways to break through, and it was just Hellebuyck who was excellent. And this is where, obviously, these conversations do get a little bit tricky, because you can say, oh, Canada was the better team, the US just had the better goalie. As if that dude just was drawn at random and he got to come in and, okay, well, I guess they got the better goalie in this one. Like, that's not how this works. The goalie is a part of the team too. So yes, like the skaters out on the ice who were controlling the puck, that was obviously on Canada's side. But the best player in this hockey game, make no mistake about it, was Connor Hellebuyck, and he is still a member of the United States team. So while I am in almost agreement that, yes, Canada was the better team at creating opportunities and creating chances, Connor Hellebuyck's part of the USA team, and he was the best player out there. So I understand why those arguments are being made, and you can very easily make them, but I do think that there is at least a bit of a counterpoint for our neighbors to the south when it comes to that one anyway. So it's frustrating, and like the chances were there. And that is why, like, I tweeted out, this loss isn't on the referees missing 7 people on the ice again, or anything like that. It's not on the officiating. It's not because this went to 3-on-3. It's not because of Crosby's injury. It's not because of Morrissey's injury. Canada lost this game because they had chances and they didn't capitalize on them. Yes, Connor Hellebuyck made maybe what will go down as one of the great saves of all time on Devon Toews in front, but that's still an opportunity that they weren't able to capitalize on. Nathan MacKinnon had a wide open net, and he just hit the side of it. Canada had so many great chances in this game. They had 40 some odd shots in this one. You can't have the puck that much and control it that much and have the opportunities that they had and then just not capitalize on them and then blame someone else for the result not going your way. This one was firmly in the grasp of Canada. They had every opportunity to control their own destiny, take the referees out of it, take the 3-on-3 overtime out of it, take any excuse you want to make. They had the chance to take all of that out of the equation, and they couldn't do it. In part because Hellebuyck was fantastic, and credit to him, but also in part to just missed opportunities. And those are going to be what haunts Canada, and that is why this team lost this hockey game, not officiating or anything else like that. So, going to get to more of this one in a second. As mentioned before, we are presented by Sea of Dead. Head over to seaofdead403.ca. I got the stuff on today, so we've got to show it off a little bit. We got the Cannons hat here. We got the Hanging in the Dome, Chilling with Jerome shirts. All that supports kid sport and allowing all kids to enjoy the wonder of sport we got to enjoy today. But it does allow kids to get out there and really find all the great things that sport can provide. And I think we got an amazing example of what sport can be over the last couple of weeks. This Olympic hockey tournament was exceptional, and the Olympics bring out some of the best stories that you will find in the sporting world. And so just a nice reminder that, look, the work that Kidsport does, it's not going to guarantee that that kid is then going to get to go to the Olympics, but it can help guarantee that they have a better day, and that can lead to 2 better days, and so on and so forth. So, again, very happy that Sea of Dead is paired up here working with Kidsport with the Jerome shirts that we got going on right now. So, the big story of this, I think, was Canada's missed opportunities. Like the McKinnon chance at the side of the net, he scores on that 1 billion times out of 10, and he just missed it. Devon Toews, absolutely stonewalled and robbed in front by Hellebuyck, and some more great chances, like 5-on-3 that was wildly ineffective for the Canadian side. Celebrini was very good, but he missed a couple of really good looks in the slot as well. They had some really good chances and just weren't able to bury it, but I would say the American side, like, the big story is that they won. But from just the on-ice perspective of this, obviously a big story is Connor Hellebuyck. And we've talked in Canada about how Jordan Binnington has used these Olympic Games to provide big moment after big moment, amazing save after amazing save, and provided a gigantic amount of rehabilitation to his image. I would say the same goes for Hellebuyck, who has the reputation of not being a big-time performer because, look, earned, too, right? Like, it's not... We kind of did this with Binnington last year, and we're doing it now with Binnington as well, but it's not like he comes out and has that great game against Canada, and then you go and look at, okay, well, you know what? He was very good against Canada, so I was wrong. He was actually awesome against Colorado, and we were just wrong because he was good 2 years later. It doesn't work that way. Like, the reputation that Hellebuyck has as someone who hasn't played very well in big moments, he has it because he hasn't played well in big moments. Now, did he play well in this one? Yeah. So, like, it doesn't erase all of that, but it can at least alter some of the conversation around him, and he needed that. With the Jets having just a piss-poor season, and this guy really being kind of labeled good regular season goalie, can't get it done when it matters. He was great for the Americans every single step of the way, and this part, like, it doesn't erase the struggles that he had, but it does remind everyone that on his best day, Connor Hellebuyck is the best goalie in the world. And we saw that 10 times over against Team Canada. If he is anything other than amazing, if he's only excellent, Canada wins this game probably 3-1. That's how good they played on the offensive side of this. But Hellebuyck was damn near perfect for however long this game lasted, and was able to come away with the victory and a very well-earned gold medal around his neck. And now, I do think, while again, reputation earned, but reputation changed a little bit, and that there's going to be some bigger conversations around what's going on in Winnipeg now. I think that is absolutely 100% for sure. On the Canada side, the reaction is going to be that, okay, well, big changes need to be made. And I was critical of the women's team for getting kind of outplayed, and then, oh, hey, we got the result we wanted, though, because Marie-Philippe Poulin is amazing, so we don't need to make any changes. And then that leads to what we saw at the 2026 Olympics for the women, where Canada was significantly behind. It felt like the Americans, even if the gold medal game was very, very close. And so maybe there is a level of hypocrisy here, but I was critical of the roster construction the whole way. But this team went undefeated up until the gold medal game, where they soundly controlled the play for basically 60 minutes of this one, right? Like, the Americans had their chances, obviously, but Canada was in pretty firm control of this one for a large chunk of the game and end up losing in 3-on-3 overtime. I don't look at that result and say, well, now we have to change everything. I think the big look has to be probably on the blue line, and you get hurt because Josh Morrissey, who is an amazing defenseman, by the way, I know he's not the big name that Crosby was, but he is exactly what this team was lacking. And I do get a little bit frustrated when we look at the forwards and, okay, Braden Point goes down. Well, we can't just bring the next best defenseman along. We have to bring exactly what Braden Point was, so we can just plug that player in and we can have that role. And Cirelli, well, we need that role, so we have to go out and get that player. We can't just bring in the best player. And I understand why they are doing that, but like, of the 5 biggest hits of the Olympics, McDavid had 2 of them. These guys are incredibly talented hockey players. Whatever role you put them into, they'll figure it out. I wouldn't put Tom Wilson on the blue line, but I think he could figure it out if we did. Probably not against the Americans. That's more of a France one. But you know what I mean? Like, obviously hyperbole, but these are unbelievable athletes and unbelievable hockey players. 1% of the 1%. And to suggest that, okay, well, we're going to have to put this guy into a checking role, but he hasn't played that way with the New York Islanders, so I guess he's not going to be able to figure it out. I don't buy that. So that part frustrates me a little bit. But then you look at the blue line, if we're going to use the same logic, why is there only, like, aside from Makar, why is there only one puck mover that's available to this team? Why is it that when one of the guys who goes down with an injury who can get the puck out of his own end goes down, it is only, oh, well, thank God we have another stay-at-home defenseman that we can rely on? That is where it gets frustrating, because there were times where Canada got caught in their own end and couldn't get the puck out of the zone as quickly as they wanted to. And that did kind of hinder what should be an elite transition offense at times. Again, we're nitpicking here because they were within a goal of winning the gold medal, but that's where you are at with this Canadian team. So I get frustrated that we have to match roles when it's the strong defensive type of thing that a lot of coaches in this country fantasize about. But when it comes to actually providing offense, oh, no, you can never, we just best player available. That's all we're going to do. It's speaking out of 2 sides of their mouths. And so I don't think Evan Bouchard would have been the difference here, but I think Matthew Schaefer might have been. And when you are looking at these results, like I said, you don't need to throw everything away and start over, but you do need to look at where you can improve. And obviously a puck-moving defenseman would be a significant improvement. And even Bellini agrees. She just had to stretch it out. She's like, preach on that. For people just listening, Bellini not feeling well today. So she's hanging out in the studio here and just popped her head in for a bit of a visit as we were chatting here. But overall, again, it was an amazing tournament, and Canada played very, very well. It is just like, okay, let's see where some improvements can come for this Canadian team. I do think a little bit more speed throughout the lineup would be helpful. I always think that this team could use more skill, but then like you look like Sam Reinhart would have been in that skill category of guys that you brought along, and he was wildly ineffective in the tournament. So like I don't think you can say, well, why would they bring in grinders like Sam Reinhart to play along? They should have had this guy there. That one, like you can look at, maybe you could have had a better player, but this is also someone who has been effective at international competitions before and at the highest level in the National Hockey League. So it's tough to get on that one also. But there's going to be a lot of discussion about what Canada should do around the roster and around everything else. I just don't know if wild sweeping changes are needed on the men's side. Changes for sure. Wild sweeping ones, probably not. At least that would be my initial diagnosis of everything here. But like I said, like just from if we take a step back from the Canadian perspective, and for us in Canada, that's difficult to do. But if we can take a step back from the Canadian perspective, this was a fantastic tournament. Was it nail biters all the way through the round robin? It was not. Could our hearts stand that if it was, and then we had the medal round we did? We could not have. So you do need a couple tap-ins early on to make sure that the entire country doesn't have a heart attack by the time 16 days of the Olympics comes to a close. But you had incredible drama in the quarterfinals. You had so many very well-played games. Obviously, on the Canadian side, this isn't the consolation that you want, but from a growing the game standpoint, the Americans winning is huge. This is a golden era for American hockey, and it is one that is, I think, the primary reason for my frustration of why is this not happening when we're talking about best on best hockey at the Olympics, because you have a generation that the biggest country in the world is can firmly get behind, as we saw in these games. So why aren't you doing more to try to grow the game with this group? Now they have their gold medal. Now they have their Micah Ruzioni with Jack Hughes and half a tooth going out and scoring the game-winning goal. So now you have that big moment for the NHL to try to grow with. And I get they can't use the highlights of all of that stuff. I'm amazed they can't figure out a deal in that way. But if you can't figure out how to make any kind of money or anything off of that, then you need a different job, right? Like that is, yes, you cannot use the straight 1-to-1 of the like goal scoring highlight or whatever, but it's not like you can't put hockey highlights up or anything like that, right? Like there are ways that you can do this. That you're not going to put up a highlight of Jack Hughes and he'll score a goal. It's like, oh man, that looks awfully similar to something that I saw at the Olympics. I don't know what it is though. Probably not going to watch it. Like, obviously not. So the NHL should be able to find a way to grow off of this, and a big moment for hockey in the States. But even throughout the rest of the tournament, like Finland played very effectively. They get a bronze medal. They played Finnish hockey really, really well. Sweden, not the tournament they would have wanted, but some major questions coming out of it, and a lot of upheaval probably going to be happening around a hockey power, at least. And then you look at the rest of it, like France and Italy didn't have a whole lot to say, but I would say this felt like a leveling up for Germany, for Switzerland, and certainly for Slovakia. Like that gap between the four nations that were at the Four Nations face-off and the rest of the world, it feels like while Sweden, for the most part, I would say, Finland, roughly, but Canada and the US, while those nations have got better, the gap has still closed from some of the other ones that we were kind of used to being like, oh man, well, you gotta mind your P's and Q's, but gonna be able to beat them anyway. They have closed that gap, even if some of the score lines weren't quite as or weren't quite as close in some of those games. It still feels like that gap is closing with a very strong Olympics from some of those countries. So again, this was incredible. And the fact that we went 12 years without this, it sucks. But it's great that it's back. From a Canadian standpoint, it's great it came back with the Four Nations, and Canada got the win at that, because if this was back-to-back overtime losses against the United States, we'd be losing our mind. And then there could be discussions about what Canada needs to do differently. But it's so we're happy that it came back in that way, but it's fully back now, and we already can't wait for the next time that we get to have something along these lines. Just an incredible tournament, phenomenal drama, and I can't wait till we get to do this again, even with the heartbreak that we all had today. So what were your guys' thoughts on the Olympics? Should we be more upset on something on the Canadian side? Should we be more celebratory that the Americans won and the game will continue to grow? Let me know in the comments. I was hoping to go live with this one today, but we were a little devastated, and the dog's not feeling good, so didn't do that. But we will be going live at some point in the future. Make sure you keep it on my social medias to see when we're going live on Twitch, Kick, and here on YouTube.